Of all the tricky bits of punctuation that we really need to master in order to get our meaning across when we write in English, apostrophes are the things that most learners have difficulty with. So in this short video, we're going to spend a couple of minutes looking at the correct use of apostrophes. But before I talk about that, I'll tell you what an apostrophe is in case you're a bit muddled. An apostrophe is a little squiggle that goes mostly towards the end of the word and at the top of the word. So unlike a comma which rests on the line, an apostrophe is up towards the top of the word. And there are normally two situations in which we would use apostrophes. The first is to replace missing letters when we contract two words. The second situation is to show belonging. Now we'll start by talking about the first one because that tends to be the easier one for us to get our heads around. So think of a sentence. I do not understand what you're saying. Now in spoken English, we wouldn't normally say do not. We would more typically say I don't understand what you're saying. So if we wrote it down, it would look like this. And in this scenario, we are using an apostrophe here to show the reader that we have removed a letter when we have contracted the two words do not into don't. And if you look carefully, you can see the letter that we have removed and replaced with the apostrophe is the letter O. Let's look at two more examples. We've got the two words here, we have. When we contract them, we end up with the word weave. And when we spell weave, we spell it W-E apostrophe V-E. And again, in this example, the apostrophe shows the reader that we have removed, in this case, two letters in the process of contracting. And those two letters are H and A. In the last example, the two words you are, when we contract them together, become the single word your. And as before, we're using an apostrophe to show that we have removed a letter, in this case, the letter A. So to recap, the first use of apostrophes is to replace missing letters when we're contracting two words and making them into one, as in these examples. Now, just a quick note, when you are writing formal English, if you were to write an article, for example, we tend to use the full form of the word. So we would say do not rather than don't in an article. If we're using informal English, like we're writing an email, for instance, it's fine to use contractions as we've done here. But in formal written English, for example, in an article, we would not contract the two words to make one. So there we go. That is the first use of apostrophes done and dusted. Now it's with the second use of apostrophes, when they're used to show belonging, that things tend to get a little bit trickier. So let's spend a moment or two looking at this. Jack, can you pass me your phone? No, go on, I'll catch it, it's fine. Oh, there you go, see? This is Jack's phone, and we can write it in this way. We have used the apostrophe and the S to show belonging. The phone belongs to Jack. Let's have another example. Thank you, Jack. Can you pass me that book Dan's been reading? Thank you. So this is the book that Dan's been reading. It is in fact Dan's book. And we would write that in this way. We would write Dan apostrophe S, Dan's book. And by using the apostrophe S in this way, we are showing that relationship of belonging, the book that belongs to Dan. Thank you. Sometimes in a sentence, we can use two apostrophes where there are two relationships of belonging. So, Jack, what's your mum's name again?
Lisa.
Lisa. So we can say that Jack's mum's name is Lisa. And what are we saying exactly in this sentence? I've said that there are two relationships of belonging. So we're saying the name that belongs to the mum that belongs to Jack is Lisa. So in a manner of speaking, we're looking at two relationships of belonging. Is it always like this? Do apostrophes always work in this way for belonging? Yes, but there are a couple of exceptions, and we'll have a look at those now. Okay, so this pen belongs to James. We can say it's James's pen. But when the noun, like my name, James, ends in the letter S, it is enough for us just to put an apostrophe without having to end with an additional S. The apostrophe in this case tells us everything we need to know about belonging. James's pen. If we can look at some other examples of nouns that end in the letter S, we could have Moses' mother, Ellis's lunchbox, and Venus's childminder, for example. So a small but important point, when the noun already ends in the letter S, as in these names, it is not necessary for us to put an apostrophe S to show belonging. The apostrophe alone is enough. Now, one more thing before we finish off. Often when learners learn about apostrophes, they get quite excited about using them naturally, and they start putting them everywhere. Whenever they see a letter S, they think, I'm going to stick in, I'm going to bung in an apostrophe there. So we end up with sentences like this. I have 2 dogs, where we have dog, apostrophe S. Or my 2 nieces love Peppa Pig. The excitement about learning about apostrophes has translated to apostrophes just getting stuffed in everywhere in every noun. But if we look at these sentences, I have the S in this sentence, I have 2 dogs, simply indicates a number, a plural number. I have more than 1 dog, I have 2. So when the S at the end of a noun is indicating more than one of something, there is absolutely no need for us to put an apostrophe. The same in the case of 2 nieces. When I'm using the S just to show that there's more than one of something, an apostrophe is not necessary at all.